Chapter 37:10. It's settled. Looking at the corpses of the winged men and the feathers on the ground, the divine dragon race was stunned. Previously, when nearly 60 quasi-emperors of the winged men surrounded them, they had despaired. They thought that they would be wiped out this time. They didn't expect Lu Ming to appear at the crucial moment. It seemed that Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the 4th level of the Divine Lord realm, but his battle strength was simply shocking. He killed the quasi-emperors of the winged men like they were chickens. They had never heard of such battle strength. At this moment, 5 Chenkuan bags appeared in Lu Ming's hand. He had obtained them from killing Silver Wing and the others. Lu Ming waved his hand, and the 5 Chenkuan bags flew into the sky and rapidly expanded. Then, the Chenkuan bags opened, and out flew divine dragons. Roar! The world was filled with the roars of dragons. Divine dragons of different colors flew in the sky. It was a spectacular sight. These divine dragons were all captured by the winged men. As soon as these mystical dragons flew out, they looked around vigilantly. When they saw the divine dragon royal capital, other mystical dragons, and no winged men, they relaxed. What's going on? What happened? Are we saved? Those divine dragons were curious. Immediately, a divine dragon in the divine dragon imperial capital recounted what had just happened. When they heard that Lu Ming had killed all the winged men by himself, they were incomparably shocked. Then, all the divine dragons flew over to Lu Ming and thanked him. Senior Lulu, you're really too amazing. The 7-clawed divine dragon also flew over. He looked at Lu Ming with reverence and worship. However, Lu Ming didn't relax. Don't be happy too early. The crisis hasn't been resolved yet. The winged men have several god emperors guarding outside. If those god emperors attack, we'll all die. Lu Ming said. The moment he said that, the scene fell silent. All the mystical dragons had ugly expressions on their faces. They knew very well what the consequences of a god emperor attacking would be. This world would be destroyed. Then what do we do? Are we just going to wait? Damn it, let's go out and fight them. Angry roars could be heard. Lu Ming raised his hands, and the scene quieted down. After the previous battle, Lu Ming had accumulated a great reputation. Unknowingly, these mystical dragons regarded Lu Ming as their backbone. Actually, there's no need to be afraid. I have a way to send you to the dragon race's mother planet. Lu Ming said. What? You can send us to the dragon race's mother planet? Lu Ming's words caused an uproar. All the mystical dragons were shocked beyond words. The Dragon Clan's mother planet was the legendary Holy Land of the Dragon Clan. Lu Ming could really send them to the Dragon Clan's mother planet. To be honest, not long after I left the mother planet of the dragon race, I met the World Annihilation Divine Dragon Senior Ao Chen. Senior Ao Chen gave me a type of array disk. Before Lu Ming could finish his words, the crowd burst into an uproar. What World Annihilation Divine Dragon Senior Ao Chen? Didn't Senior Ao Chen fall? That's the legendary invincible expert of the Dragon Clan. Do you really know such a great existence? All the dragons stared intently at Lu Ming, their eyes burning with passion. Lu Ming touched his nose speechlessly and said, Senior Ao Chen did not fall. He's now in the Dragon Clan's mother planet. He gave me an array disk that can open a wormhole to the Dragon Clan's mother planet. There's no time to lose. I'll open the wormhole now and send you to the Dragon Clan's mother planet. Lu Ming did not delay any further. He took out the 36 array disks that Ao Chen gave him and set up a large array in the air. The 36 array disks were arranged in a circle, emitting a bright light. Then, a vortex appeared in the void, and a dark passage appeared in the air. Through the wormhole, Lu Ming could vaguely feel the aura of the Dragon Clan's mother planet. Success. All right, the wormhole is open. Let's go. Lu Ming said. It really is the Dragon Clan's mother planet. I can feel a familiar aura. I'm excited. Many of the mystical dragons looked excited. Let's go, let's go. Some mystical dragons rushed into the wormhole and disappeared. Now, they could only choose to trust Lu Ming. With so many winged men here, it was certain that there were god emperors guarding outside. The winged men god emperors outside might think that there were winged men inside, so they did not dare to attack. But as time passed, they would definitely notice that something was wrong. By then, it would be too late. Rather than die at the hands of the winged men god emperors, they might as well take a gamble. The wormhole was very big, and the dragons shrank their bodies. It could accommodate hundreds of dragons at the same time. There were tens of thousands of dragons in this world. It did not take long for them to successfully pass through the wormhole. In the end, only Lu Ming was left. Lu Ming also rushed into the wormhole. With a thought, the 36 disc arrays flew into Lu Ming's hands. The wormhole was disappearing, but Lu Ming's figure was already flying towards the Dragon Clan's mother planet. When he arrived, the wormhole had also disappeared. Lu Ming did not intend to go out and fight the god emperors. That would be courting death. In a mountain range on the Dragon Clan's mother planet, a large number of dragons descended. What a dense divine aura. Heavens, the density of the divine aura is too shocking. What a stable environment, what a familiar aura. The Dragon Clan's mother planet. I'm sure this is the mother planet. We have really arrived at the mother planet. Many dragons were so excited that they were trembling. Needless to say, as long as they sensed it, they would know that this was the Dragon Clan's mother planet. The Dragon Clan's mother planet was the origin of all dragons. As long as they were divine dragons, they would have a special feeling once they arrived here. They were extremely excited. The cultivation environment here was much better than where they had stayed in the past. Cultivating here, their cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. It would not be like before, where the highest cultivation level they could reach was Quasi-Emperor. I feel that I'm showing signs of a breakthrough. It won't be long before I break through. An old mystical dragon cried out excitedly. This was a Quasi-Emperor. When he was young, he was extremely talented and quickly cultivated to the Quasi-Emperor realm. However, he was unable to break through in that short period of time. He could have left that world to break through, but once he left that world, he would definitely not be able to return after breaking through. He might even be hunted down by the other clans. Many big clans coveted a divine dragon of the divine emperor realm. It would be very cool to have a divine emperor realm dragon pull a carriage. Therefore, he had been stuck at the quasi-emperor realm for many years. When he arrived at the Dragon Clan's mother planet, he immediately felt that he was about to break through. I'm about to break through too. Many dragons were stimulated and felt that they were about to break through. Chapter 37:11. All of the dragon race beings cheered in excitement. This was their homeland, the sacred land of the dragon race. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the sky. As soon as this figure appeared, it emitted a vast dragon aura. The scene suddenly quietened down. Feeling this vast dragon aura, all the dragons felt extremely pressured. Senior Ao Qian, Lu Ming cupped his fists. The figure in the sky was naturally the World Annihilation Divine Dragon Ao Qian. This is Senior Ao Qian. All the mystical dragons were shaken to their core. The World Annihilation Divine Dragon Ao Qian was the legendary strongest of the dragon race. They actually saw the legend with their own eyes. All the dragons were extremely excited and knelt down to pay their respects. No need to be so polite. Ao Qian waved his hand, and a force spread out. All the dragons stood up at the same time. Ao Qian sized up the tens of thousands of divine dragons, and a trace of excitement flashed in the depths of his eyes. Lu Ming, you're not bad. Ao Qian sighed. Bringing back tens of thousands of divine dragons was a huge gain. As long as they were nurtured well, the dragon race would not be exterminated and would prosper. This was the foundation for the dragon race to rise again. Originally, there were only a few divine dragons left on the dragon race's mother planet. With so few divine dragons, how could the dragon race grow stronger? But with tens of thousands of them, the speed of reproduction would be very fast. This is what I should do. In the future, as long as I encounter divine dragons outside, I will send them to the dragon race's mother planet. Lu Ming cupped his fists. Good, good, good. Ao Qian nodded repeatedly and then made arrangements for these divine dragons. The dragon race's mother planet had a vast territory. There were only a few dragon humans left. It was too easy to arrange tens of thousands of divine dragons. As for Lu Ming, he did not leave immediately. Since he was back, he planned to take a batch of divine herbs with him. He had already discovered the secret of the taboo cultivation. It required him to constantly store energy. In this way, he would not be afraid of death in a battle. He did not need to defend. Even if he was seriously injured, he could quickly recover and even increase his cultivation. During the battle with the winged men, Lu Ming discovered that his cultivation had increased by a lot. He was quickly approaching the 5th level Divine Lord realm. If such intense life and death great battles came a few more rounds, he would probably be able to break through to 5th level Divine Lord. Of course, the prerequisite was that his cells had stored enough energy and accumulated enough potential. While Lu Ming was plundering the divine herbs, a few winged men god-kings outside the middle-sized cosmos had ugly looks on their faces. Naturally, he had received news from Silver Wing and the others. He knew that a Lu Ming with terrifying battle prowess had appeared and was hunting the winged men. However, they did not dare to charge in directly for fear of destroying the world. If that happened, none of the winged ones inside would survive. Therefore, they could only wait outside. However, after waiting for an entire day, not a single winged person came out of the medium-sized world. They knew that the winged man inside was most likely dead. If he was fine, how could he not come out? "Let me go in and take a look," one of the winged individuals said, his face gloomy. Then, they opened the passage and the Divine Emperor Realm winged man stepped in. He retracted his aura to the extreme, not daring to leak it in the slightest. Then, he began to search this world. However, after looking around, he did not see a single divine dragon or winged man. The world became empty. There was nothing in it. "How can this be? Damn it!" the winged man roared. How could the people of this world suddenly disappear without a trace? Boom! He could no longer hold back. A terrifying aura burst out. The aura of a divine emperor was too terrifying. This world could not withstand it at all. With the winged man as the center, a huge spatial crack spread out, extending to the end of the world. Rumble. The entire world shook violently. Heaven and earth shook, the ground cracked, and lava filled the sky. The entire world was being destroyed. Soon, the entire world exploded, turning into a void. This world could not withstand the pressure of a divine emperor. "Disappear," the winged man God King said coldly. He flapped his wings, and 2 rays of light burst out, splitting the world into several pieces. The speed of destruction suddenly increased. The winged man God King broke through the void and left this world, appearing outside. From the outside, one could clearly see that the starry sky was violently distorting, and powerful energy was overflowing. "What's going on?" the few divine emperors outside immediately asked. The divine emperor who went in told them what he saw. The others were dumbfounded. In the end, they left this place and reported this matter. Half a month later, Lu Ming left the dragon race's mother planet again. This time, he brought a lot of divine herbs, enough for him to use for a while. This time, Lu Ming did not go to the area where the Winged Man clan was located. He was afraid that the Winged Man clan was looking for him. Lu Ming chose to go in another direction. The direction he went was the south of the primitive universe. This was because the illusory heavenly palace was located in the south of the primitive universe. He was not in a hurry. He hurried along while cultivating. Half a year later, he came to a bustling place. This place was a famous commercial area in the south of the primitive universe. Many seeds and merchants gathered in this area. It also attracted many experts to trade here. Lu Ming came here to find out if the Heavenly Palace was recruiting heavenly soldiers. Secondly, Lu Ming wanted to buy some secret skills. Previously, he had killed hundreds of Winged Man clan experts and plundered 28 different secret skills from them. Most of these secret skills were related to speed. However, 5 of them had been cultivated by Lu Ming before, so there were only 23 that Lu Ming had not cultivated. In the past half a year, Lu Ming had cultivated these secret skills into secret skill runes and integrated them into his cells. The more secret skill runes he integrated, the the stronger Lu Ming's combat strength would be. Therefore, Lu Ming wanted to find more secret skills to cultivate. Planet Shangchuan was a huge and bustling planet. Experts of different races shuttled back and forth. Lu Ming walked on the street. It was too much for his eyes to take in. After strolling for a while, Lu Ming walked into a huge shop. The shop was very big. There were many shelves neatly placed with all kinds of treasures. Divine pills, divine weapons, divine medicines, divine techniques, secret skills, and so on. Dear customer, how can I help you? A beautiful young girl came over and asked with a kind smile. I need to buy some secret skills. Lu Ming went straight to the point, stating his purpose for coming. Oh, what secret skills do you need? I can help you see if there are any. The young girl said. I can buy any secret skills. The more, the better. Lu Ming said. Chapter 37:12. You'll buy any secret technique? This time, the young woman was stunned. She looked at Lu Ming in surprise. It wasn't that no one bought ordinary secret techniques, but they wouldn't buy a lot. Usually, they would buy one or two to study and use as a supplementary method. This was because cultivating divine power required secret techniques. Secret techniques were unfathomable and had great potential. Their power was far above ordinary secret techniques. Even if one spent a lifetime to cultivate them, they might not be able to cultivate to the greater success stage. Therefore, there were very few people who cultivated ordinary secret techniques, unless they hadn't awakened any secret techniques. However, while origin source secret techniques were rare in the Taishu Sacred Court, they were rare in some of the more powerful universe-level powers and even the various powerful races. Almost everyone in some powerful races could awaken secret techniques. Even if some people couldn't awaken them when they were young, they would be able to awaken them when they were older and their cultivation was high. Therefore, there were very few people who would buy a lot of secret techniques at once. Moreover, Lu Ming could buy as many as he wanted, so there were even fewer of them. Sir, do you really want to buy a lot? The young woman asked again. That's right. Lu Ming nodded. Then I'll ask our young master to come out and talk to you. Please wait a moment. The young woman bowed and left. Not long after, the young woman came over with a young man. The man was very handsome and looked to be in his 20s. He was wearing luxurious clothes and had a smile on his face. He walked towards Lu Ming with a trace of curiosity in the depths of his eyes. I'm Jiang Lebang, may I know your name? The young man cupped his fists and smiled. Mu Yun. Lu Ming cupped his fists and replied. Brother Mu, do you want to buy a lot of secret techniques? Jiang Lebang asked. Yes, I already have some secret techniques. I need to buy secret techniques that I don't have. I'll buy as many as you have. Lu Ming said. Brother Mu, please come in and talk in detail. Jiang Lebang said and led Lu Ming to a guest room. Brother Mu, these are all the secret techniques I have. There are a total of 220 secret techniques. Brother Lu, take a look and see which ones you need. Jiang Lebang handed a jade talisman to Lu Ming. There were 220 secret techniques recorded in the jade talisman. Of course, there were only names and introductions. Lu Ming looked at them one by one. There are 60, I already have them. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Many of the secret techniques he had mastered before were commonly used secret techniques. Many people had them, so they were easy to repeat. However, other than these 60 techniques, Lu Ming did not cultivate the remaining 160 techniques. Lu Ming was quite excited to suddenly have 160 more doors. These. Apart from these, I want all of the remaining 160 secret arts. Lu Ming pointed out the 60 secret arts he already possessed. Jiang Lebang's eyes flashed. Buying 160 secret arts at once was a big deal. Naturally, there were different levels of secret skills and their prices were also different. However, the price of 160 secret skills was already very high. Jiang Lebang reported the price of the 160 secret skills. Over the years, Lu Ming had killed a lot of enemies and accumulated a lot of wealth. He was so rich that he paid divine crystals to buy all of them without blinking an eye. After putting away the 160 secret skills, Lu Ming was quite happy. Brother Jiang, if you have other secret skills that I don't have, I want all of them. Lu Ming said. I do want to do business with Brother Mu, but it's not easy to collect these secret skills. However, I do have a way. Brother Mu, you can try it. Maybe you can get a lot of secret skills. Jiang Lebang said. What way? Lu Ming's interest was piqued. He had 60 trillion cells, and every single one of them was infused with a secret technique. The more secret skills integrated, the stronger his battle strength would naturally be. Moreover, according to Fei Huang, he needed to accumulate at the beginning. Only when he had accumulated enough secret skills could he walk his own path and truly transcend. However, it was difficult to do so without enough accumulation. Therefore, to Lu Ming, the more secret techniques he had, the better. On planet Shangchuan, every once in a while, there will be a trade fair. At that time, there will be many experts from many races participating. Everyone will take out treasures to trade with others for treasures that they can use. Those people most likely have many secret techniques that they can trade for. Jiang Lebang said. Okay, when will the trade fair be held? Lu Ming asked. 3 months later. Jiang Lebang said, Brother Mu, what's the name of your illusory divine jade? When there's news, I'll inform you through the illusory divine jade. I don't have any illusory divine jade. Lu Ming said. He had left his previous illusory divine jade to his past self. Although he had obtained a lot of illusory divine jades from others, those illusory divine jades were already bound to others and could not be used. Jiang Lebang was also a little speechless. In the primitive universe, only some small forces or very remote places did not have illusory divine jades. It was not difficult for some of the larger forces or races to get their hands on illusory divine jades. Previously, Lu Ming had been very generous and did not seem like someone who could not afford illusory divine jades. Later, Lu Ming bought another illusory divine jade from Jiang Lebang and named it Mu Yun. After exchanging contact information with Jiang Lebang, Lu Ming bid farewell and found an inn to stay in. Then, he began to cultivate secret skills. As Lu Ming cultivated more secret skills, his cultivation speed became faster and faster. This time, he had obtained 160 secret skills. In 3 months, Lu Ming had cultivated 60 kinds of secret skills. In this way, he had integrated 190 secret skills into every cell in his body. These secret skills came in all kinds. Some were good at speed, some were good at attack, some were good at defense, some were good at support, and so on. Some were good at dispelling poison, and some were good at healing. Although the healing and detoxification secret skills were not very useful to Lu Ming now, Lu Ming still cultivated all of them. After cultivating another 60 secret skills, Lu Ming's overall strength became stronger. These secret skills were integrated into every cell in Lu Ming's body. With a thought, they would erupt with astonishing power. At this time, Lu Ming also received news from Jiang Lebang that the trading meet was about to begin. Lu Ming was the first to see Jiang Lebang. He followed Jiang Lebang to a huge hall. The hall was very wide, and there were many chairs in the hall. These chairs were arranged in a circle, and there were at least 1,000 chairs. When Lu Ming and Jiang Lebang arrived, many people had already arrived and were sitting on the chairs. Some people knew each other and chatted with each other. Some people had cold expressions and sat alone with their eyes closed. After Lu Ming and Jiang Lebang arrived, they casually found a seat and sat down. Chapter 37:13. As time passed, more and more people entered the hall. Slowly, the thousands of chairs were filled. That's Yu Chang from the Icy Moon Vine Race. It's really him. I didn't expect the Icy Moon Vine Race to be here too. A few voices came from the crowd. They were surprised and solemn. Icy Moon Vine Race. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. This was a big race. They were ranked 437th on the primitive 10,000 tribes board. They were already the top race in the primitive universe. Lu Ming looked up and saw a young man in a silver robe. He walked in with a few middle-aged men and sat down on the chairs. The others quickly bowed to the young man from the icy moon vine race and gave him a flattering smile. The heavenly locust race is here too. Another voice rang out. Everyone's gazes shifted to the entrance. A young man in a blue robe with a sinister expression walked into the hall with a few people behind him. The heavenly locust race was ranked 356th on the primitive 10,000 tribes board. They were even more terrifying than the icy moon vine race. Wherever the heavenly locust race passed, nothing grew. It was terrifying. Yu Chang, you're here too. What treasures did you bring this time? The young man from the heavenly locust race smiled evilly when he saw Yu Chang. Of course I have treasures. Let's see if you have treasures of the same level to exchange. Yu Chang replied coldly. Although the icy moon vine race was ranked lower than the heavenly locust race, he was not afraid of them. The young man from the heavenly locust race smiled evilly and sat down with his men. As the geniuses of the two races entered, the atmosphere in the hall became tense. An hour later, the hall was filled with people. At this moment, an old man walked in. The old man's hair was white, but he was in high spirits. Thank you for coming to this trade fair. However, there are rules. No fighting is allowed during the trade fair. Don't blame me for being merciless if you break the rules. The old man cupped his fists and said, Of course, of course. Everyone in the hall quickly replied. Even Yu Chang and the young man from the heavenly locust race had to be cautious. This was because the old man's background was not to be underestimated. It was said that he was related to the top 100 races on the primitive 10,000 tribes board. The heavenly locust race and the icy moon vine race did not dare to act rashly. All right, let's begin the trade fair. Let this old man start. After the white-haired old man finished speaking, his palm glowed and a small piece of armor appeared in his hand. This armor is called the Soul Anchor Armor. It has a powerful soul defensive ability. Even if you encounter a spiritus powerhouse of the same level, it can still defend you. The white-haired old man introduced. Against experts of the same level, I can defend myself for a bit. Immediately, many people's eyes lit up. The soul race was the race with the strongest soul research in the primitive universe. Their soul attacks were unparalleled and terrifying to the extreme. Even the other races in the top 10 were extremely wary of the soul race. And this armor could even defend against the soul attacks of a spiritus at the same level. Didn't this mean that if one were to encounter the soul attacks of other races at the same level, the effects would be absolutely astonishing? For example, the Wu people might not be able to break this armor even if they were at the same level. Senior, what do you want? What realm can it reach? Immediately, many people started asking questions. This armor can be used until I reach the first godly emperor layer. I need an imperial godly herb. The white-haired old man said. Only the first godly emperor layer. You want an imperial godly herb? Many people felt it was a pity. The first godly emperor layer was already unattainable for ordinary groups of the universe. But for groups of the primitive universe like the list of 10,000 clans, it wasn't that difficult. It could only be used until the first godly emperor layer, which meant that once a cultivator reached the second godly emperor layer, the armor's power would be greatly reduced. At the same time, its value would also be greatly reduced. Besides, he needed an imperial godly herb. Imperial godly herbs were very useful for cultivators of the godly emperor layer. It wasn't worth it to exchange for an armor that could only be used until the first godly emperor layer. Therefore, for a while, nobody said anything. After a while, Senior, isn't the demand for an emperor-grade divine medicine a bit too high? Can you change the conditions? Asked someone. This old man needs an emperor-grade divine herb. Is there anyone who wants to trade? Asked the white-haired old man. Nobody replied. Imperial godly herbs were very precious. They were priceless. Of course, no one wanted to exchange them. Even though Lu Ming had more than one imperial godly herb, he wasn't interested in the armor. He didn't have a soul in his consciousness. His soul was in every cell of his body. Ordinary soul attacks were useless against him. Therefore, he wasn't interested in the armor. After a short time, nobody came. The white-haired old man sighed in disappointment. He put the armor away and sat down. "I'll do it." After that, a middle-aged man stood up. Then, a jade box appeared in his hand. When he opened it, there was a sword-shaped crystal inside. This is a sword god crystal. It's very useful for people who practice the original strength of swords. It can help them sever shackles. "I want a spiritual enhancing pill. Who wants it?" asked the middle-aged man. Immediately, many people's eyes lit up. "How much can your sword god crystal increase the power of sword-type origin source secret arts to sever the shackles?" asked someone. "It can increase the efficiency by 50%. said the middle-aged man. 50%. Many people looked even more excited. Being able to increase the efficiency by 50% was already very good. It could greatly shorten the cultivation time. Originally, it would take 10 years. Now, it would only take 6 or 7 years. Moreover, for ordinary divine lords and divine emperors, cultivation would take hundreds of millions of years. How much time could this save? However, many people sighed because the spiritual enhancing pill was also very precious. The spiritual enhancing pill could increase a person's potential. Potential was the most important thing for cultivators. Potential determined how far a person could go in the future. It determined the upper limit of a person's cultivation. It was extremely precious. "I'll exchange with you." After a while, someone finally spoke. Everyone looked over and saw that it was an old man. The old man took out a jade bottle and walked in front of the middle-aged man. "Here's a spiritual enhancing pill. Take it and check it," said the old man. The middle-aged man nodded and took the jade bottle. Then, he revealed a satisfied smile. This was indeed a spiritual enhancing pill. He had exchanged it for his children. Increasing the potential of young people was the most important thing. When they got older, it would be difficult to increase their potential. "I'll exchange." The middle-aged man handed the sword god crystal to the old man. Both of them had gotten what they wanted and were happy. Satisfied, they returned to their seats. Then, the exchange continued. "I have a fiery origin fruit here. It's extremely beneficial for cultivating fire-attributed god power. It can help awaken one's origin god power factor, even if it's only 4 or 5 times. I'll exchange it for a treasure that's beneficial for cultivating saber-related origin secret techniques," said a middle-aged woman. Chapter 37:14. Fire source fruit. The eyes of many people who cultivated fire-attributed divine power lit up. Then, people began to make exchanges. However, Lu Ming was not interested in any of this. In his opinion, the fire source fruit and sword god crystal were far inferior to the life source grass and heavenly source fruit he had obtained from the Dragon Clan's mother planet. The sword god crystal was only useful for sword-type origin source secret techniques, and its efficiency was only increased by 50%. The fire source fruit was only useful for fire-attributed divine power, and its efficiency was only doubled. Of course, the duration of these two effects was longer than the life source grass and heavenly source fruit. However, the difference in effectiveness was too great. Firstly, the life source grass and heavenly source fruit had no attribute restrictions. They were useful for divine power of any attribute or origin source secret technique. Secondly, refining one of the life source grass and heavenly source fruit could greatly increase one's divine power of origin or origin source secret technique. It did not require much time. The difference in value between these two items was many times greater. The exchanges continued. However, Lu Ming was not interested in the treasures these people took out. Lu Ming was only interested in 2 treasures. One was a treasure that contained a large amount of energy. However, Lu Ming had many divine herbs in his possession, enough to last him for a while. In addition, Lu Ming was interested in all kinds of secret techniques. This was also the purpose of his visit. However, no one took out any secret techniques to exchange. After a day, at least a few hundred people had exchanged treasures, but none of them was what Lu Ming wanted. Therefore, Lu Ming decided to step forward himself. "Let me." Lu Ming stood up, and many people looked at him. His palm glowed, and a divine herb appeared in Lu Ming's hand. This is a monarch-grade divine herb. After refining it, it can increase one's cultivation rapidly. It is also very useful for breaking through to the next realm. Moreover, its medicinal effect is 3 times that of divine herbs of the same level. Lu Ming introduced. That was indeed the case. The Dragon Clan's mother planet had been sealed for so many years. The divine herbs produced in those sacred ruins were extremely potent. They were several times more potent than divine herbs of the same level. Hundreds and thousands of fiery gazes gathered on the divine medicine in Lu Ming's hands. After all, most of the people present were divine monarchs. There were very few divine emperors. The effects of this divine medicine were too great for them. What do you need? Someone asked. I want secret techniques. 1 stalk of divine medicine for 3 secret techniques that I don't have. Lu Ming said. Exchange secret technique. Everyone was astonished. Similar to Jiang Lebang's previous doubts, ordinary people did not have high requirements for secret techniques. They would only cultivate a few auxiliary secret techniques and mainly cultivate the essence secret techniques. Unless it was a constitution secret technique or one of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques. They didn't know why Lu Ming wanted these secret techniques. However, they didn't think too much about it. It was Lu Ming's business if he wanted to exchange so many secret techniques. They only wanted the divine medicine. I'll switch with you. I'll do it. Immediately, many people shouted. There were at least a few dozen people. I spoke first. I'll switch first. Who said you spoke first? Do you have evidence? I was the one who spoke first. Dozens of people began to compete fiercely. Everyone. Lu Ming raised his hand and the scene quieted down. Everyone, I have more than 1 stalk of divine medicine. As long as you have a secret technique, I'll exchange for it. Lu Ming said. Then, everyone quieted down. I'm the first. An old man rushed out and came in front of Lu Ming. He then took out 3 jade tokens and handed them to Lu Ming. Little brother, there are 3 secret techniques here. Take a look. The old man said. Lu Ming took it and scanned it with his spiritual consciousness. He shook his head slightly and said, I already have the heavenly eye technique. I need a secret technique that I don't have. Okay, I'll change it. The old man quickly took out another jade token. Lu Ming took it and scanned it with his spiritual consciousness. He nodded in satisfaction. Lu Ming didn't have this secret technique. Lu Ming handed the divine medicine to the old man and successfully obtained 3 new secret techniques. After putting away the secret techniques, Lu Ming took out another stalk of divine medicine. This stalk of divine medicine is about the same as the previous one. I still don't have 3 secret techniques. Lu Ming said. I'll do it. I'll go first. Immediately, a large group of people shouted. Because Lu Ming needed a secret technique that he didn't have. If he was 1 step early, he would benefit. If he was late and the secret technique he took out overlapped with the previous one, he wouldn't be able to exchange it. Lu Ming was speechless. He could only choose for himself. I'll take this senior. Lu Ming pointed to a middle-aged burly man and successfully exchanged for 3 new types of secret skills. Just like that, Lu Ming used a total of 10 stalks of divine medicine to exchange for 30 new secret techniques. Now, Lu Ming had 190 secret techniques that he had cultivated, and 130 secret techniques that he hadn't cultivated yet. But at this time, Lu Ming didn't continue to take out divine medicines to exchange. After all, he also needed divine medicines. His future cultivation couldn't be separated from energy. Lu Ming would keep the rest. However, Lu Ming still had several treasures on him. Life source grass and heavenly source fruit. The life source grass and heavenly source fruit weren't useful to Lu Ming's current body. They were useful to his past body. So Lu Ming didn't bring many of them with him. He only brought a small amount of each. He was looking for an opportunity to exchange for some resources. With a thought, a stalk of life source grass appeared. This is the life source grass. Everyone should have heard of it before. Lu Ming didn't introduce it too much. It was impossible for them not to know about it. Sure enough, as soon as Lu Ming opened his mouth, the crowd exclaimed in surprise. Then, everyone stared at the life source grass with burning eyes. The life source grass was useful to all kinds of divine force. Its effects were amazing. It was the best of the best treasures to cultivate origin source divine force. I need a stalk of life source grass to exchange for 20 secret techniques that I need. Lu Ming stated his conditions. 20. Everyone looked at each other. Ordinary people wouldn't have too many secret techniques. They couldn't take out 20. Moreover, the secret techniques that Lu Ming needed were the same as the secret techniques that Lu Ming had mastered. He didn't want them. This condition was too difficult. Change your condition. I can use other treasures to exchange with you. A voice sounded. Everyone saw that the one who spoke was the young genius from the heavenly Acrepoid race. His expression was cold, as if he wasn't negotiating with Lu Ming, but giving an order. Everyone was shocked. This was the first time the young genius from the heavenly Acrepoid race had spoken. He must be tempted by the life source grass. Well, the more talented one was, the more tempted they would be to obtain such treasures. The life source grass could save a lot of time. It was too attractive. It could help him to be ahead of the other sky prides. Chapter 37:15. Many people sighed. They knew that since the heavenly Acrepoid race's prodigy had spoken, they had no chance of getting the Genesis grass. Lu Ming dared not to give face to the heavenly Acrepoid race's prodigy. He had to compromise. However, Lu Ming's reaction was beyond everyone's expectations. Lu Ming shook his head and said, I don't need any other treasures. I only need secret skills. 20 secret skills, not one less. These words shook the hearts of the others. Lu Ming actually rejected the heavenly Acrepoid race's prodigy's offer. The heavenly Acrepoid race's prodigy's face was gloomy to begin with. Now, it was even gloomier. Brat, do you know who I am? I am from the heavenly Acrepoid race. The heavenly Acrepoid race's prodigy was about to mention his background, but he was interrupted by Lu Ming. I don't care what race you are from. If you don't have any secret skills, shut up. Lu Ming said coldly. Lu Ming did not care what race you were from. He had even killed the 16th ranked Yin-Yang raceback in the dragon race's mother planet. Why would he be afraid of the heavenly Acrepoid race? Many people gasped a breath of cold air. Lu Ming was too daring. He was simply courting death. The heavenly Acrepoid race's prodigy's mouth was half open. Clearly, he hadn't expected that someone on planet Shangchuan would dare to talk back to him like this. Ha ha ha, Huang Fang, it seems like he is not giving you face. On the other side, Yu Chang laughed loudly. He was not afraid of the heavenly Acrepoid race. Huang Fang's face was extremely ugly. He glanced coldly at Lu Ming and sat down without saying a word. Brother, I'll take your life origin grass. I'll buy some secret techniques in exchange for it. Yu Chang said. Immediately, Yu Chang took out other treasures and divine gems to buy secret skills from others. He gathered 20 secret skills that Lu Ming needed and exchanged them for the Genesis grass with Lu Ming. Brother, if you have any more Genesis grass or similar treasures, I can use other treasures to exchange them with you. Yu Chang glanced at Lu Ming, looking expectant. No more. Lu Ming shook his head. He still had the life Genesis grass and heavenly Yuan fruit, and even emperor-grade divine herbs, but he had no intention of taking them out. If he exposed too many treasures, he might be targeted by others. Lu Ming was already satisfied with the 50 new secret techniques he obtained this time. The trading continued, and another day passed in the blink of an eye. There weren't any treasures that could move Lu Ming too much. As for the transaction, it was gradually coming to an end. All right, let's end this transaction. 3 years from now, we'll hold another one. You're all welcome. The old man from before announced the end of the trading meet. As the crowd dispersed, Lu Ming and Jiang Lebang walked together. This time, Jiang Lebang also made 2 transactions and obtained the treasures he needed. He could be considered to have returned from a rewarding journey. On the way, Lu Ming narrowed his eyes slightly. On the other hand, Jiang Lebang's expression froze. Because they had been blocked. They were from the Heavenly Locust tribe. Together with 4 burly middle-aged men, Huang Fang stood in front of Lu Ming and the rest. When they saw Lu Ming, the 4 men's figures flashed and surrounded Lu Ming and Jiang Lebang. Huang Fang, what do you want? Jiang Lebang asked coldly. He had a powerful background and was not afraid of the Heavenly Locust tribe. Jiang Lebang, this matter has nothing to do with you. I'm here to look for this brat. Huang Fang said coldly, then smiled wickedly and looked at Lu Ming. Brat, you've got guts. I'll give you a chance now. Give me your storage ring, kneel down and slap yourself 20 times. Kowtow and admit your mistake and I'll spare your life. Huang Fang's eyes flickered with greed as he stared at the storage ring in Lu Ming's hand. He thought that since Lu Ming could take out a stalk of life genesis grass, he most likely still had some left. This made him greedy and his eyes burned with desire. That brat is done for. I knew it. That brat is so arrogant and daring to talk back to the Heavenly Locust tribe's Huang Fang. He's really courting death. A 4th-layer divine monarch has such guts. Haha, he's dead for sure. On the side, many people saw the situation here, and some of them were gloating. Some people were like that. If someone else did something they did not dare to do, they would be unhappy and hope that the person would be unlucky. But in the next moment, they shut up and stared. Because Lu Ming said coldly, scram. Scram. Lu Ming told Huang Fang to scram. Everyone was flabbergasted, even Huang Fang himself was stunned. Even Jiang Lebang was dumbfounded. He's dead. This brat is dead for sure. He doesn't know what's good for him. He could have saved his life if he handed over his storage ring, kowtowed, and slapped himself 20 times. But now, he's dead for sure. No one can save him. The surrounding people concluded that Lu Ming was dead for sure. The Heavenly Locust tribe was ranked 356th on the list of 10,000 primitive races. This ranking did not seem high, but it was not. The primitive universe was too big. There were countless races and forces. It was like the sands of the Ganges. No one could say for sure. Countless races and forces were scattered throughout the boundless Your-Wilds universe. Not to mention the 356th place, even those that were ranked in the thousands were terrifyingly large clans. They ruled over vast territories and commanded countless living beings. A race like the Heavenly Locust tribe was unimaginably powerful. Not to mention the Heavenly Acrepoid tribe, just Huang Fang and the 4 burly middle-aged men that he brought with him were far from what Lu Ming could handle. They were all quasi-emperors. Killing Lu Ming would be no different from killing an ant. As expected, Huang Fang's expression was extremely ugly. He did not hide his killing intent at all. Brat, I was merciful and wanted to give you a chance. But you didn't know how to cherish it. Now, you're dead. I'll sentence you to death. Huang Fang said coldly. He looked at Lu Ming with disdain. He was high and mighty. With one sentence, he wanted to sentence Lu Ming to death. Idiot. Lu Ming said indifferently. With that, he stepped forward and was about to leave. Huang Fang was only a 6th-level divine sovereign. The 4 middle-aged men were only quasi-emperors. Not long ago, he killed the 130th place winged men. That was 60 quasi-emperors. Why would he care about these people? You're courting death. Huang Fang was about to explode. With a roar, he slashed at Lu Ming with his saber-like palm. The Heavenly Locust tribe had saber-like arms. His attack was not aimed at Lu Ming's head, but Lu Ming's arm. He did not want Lu Ming to die so easily. He wanted to torture Lu Ming and let Lu Ming die painfully. He wanted to let others know the consequences of offending him. Swish. Lu Ming did not even look at him. He slashed at Huang Fang with his own palm. You overestimate yourself. Seeing Lu Ming slash at him, Huang Fang almost laughed out loud. His eyes were full of mockery. Lu Ming actually dared to meet his saber palm. His palm was evolved from the Heavenly Locust's front claws. It was sharper and tougher than a real divine weapon. Even a divine weapon would be cut in half by him. Lu Ming was asking for it. Chapter 37:16. It wasn't just Huang Fang, everyone else thought so too. The heavenly Acrepoid tribe's palm blade was famous throughout the universe. Finally, the two palms collided. The result was similar to what everyone had expected. Crack! The sound of an arm breaking rang out, followed by a scream as a figure was sent flying. The only difference was that the person who was sent flying with a broken arm wasn't Lu Ming, but Huang Fang. Huang Fang fell heavily to the ground. One of his arms wasn't just broken, it had completely exploded. His eyes were filled with disbelief and fear. When his palms collided with Lu Ming's, he realized that Lu Ming's palms didn't seem to be made of flesh. They were hundreds of times harder than divine weapons. Everyone else was also dumbfounded, their eyes bulging in disbelief. Putting aside the toughness of his arms, Huang Fang's cultivation base was much higher than Lu Ming's. Huang Fang was a 6th-level Divine Lord, while Lu Ming was only a 4th-level Divine Lord. 2 levels higher, but he was defeated by someone 2 levels lower. Attack! Kill him! Kill him for me! Acrepoid Fang roared hysterically. You're courting death. Kill! The 4 middle-aged burly men shouted angrily, charging toward Lu Ming with murderous intent. Lu Ming's face was gloomy. With a thought, a powerful force burst forth from every cell in his body. He then charged toward the 4 burly middle-aged men. Both sides used palm blades at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged more than 10 blows. Continuous explosions rang out. Then, both sides separated. The difference was that Lu Ming didn't move from his spot, while the 4 middle-aged men were sent flying. They retreated a few hundred steps before regaining their footing. Their bodies trembled as they spat out mouthfuls of blood. Their arms were trembling non-stop and bleeding. They were completely deformed. Sigh, sigh, sigh. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Everyone stared at Lu Ming as if they had seen a ghost. It was as if they were looking at a monster. A 4th-level Divine Lord had injured 4 quasi-emperors in an instant. Moreover, they were quasi-emperors of the heavenly Acrepoid tribe. Was this a dream? This is unbelievable. Jiang Lebang also widened his eyes and stared at Lu Ming in disbelief. Brother Jiang, goodbye. Lu Ming cupped his fists and left. He did not kill Huang Fang and the rest. After all, there were so many people watching. If he killed Huang Fang, the heavenly Acrepoid tribe might seek revenge. It was not easy to gain a new identity. He did not want to be hunted down all over the world. Lu Ming left, vanishing in the blink of an eye. Damn it! Huang Fang glared in the direction Lu Ming had left, his eyes filled with hatred. Lu Ming didn't stay on planet Shangchuan. He tore through the air and left planet Shangchuan. He came to a barren planet and began his seclusion. He had to first master the 150 secret techniques in his possession. Lu Ming was familiar with the process. He cultivated one secret skill after another. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. In these 3 years, Lu Ming had cultivated all 150 secret techniques, fusing them into every cell in his body. There was no doubt that Lu Ming's combat ability had increased. These ordinary secret techniques are limited in power. I wonder how profound the 3,000 ancient secret techniques are. Lu Ming muttered in anticipation. The 3,000 ancient secret techniques were different from ordinary secret techniques. They were profound and unfathomable, and their power was boundless. When cultivated to the peak, they were no weaker than an origin source technique with 9 severed shackles. However, until now, Lu Ming had not encountered any of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques. He had not seen their power. Now, Lu Ming had already fused 340 secret techniques. After cultivating the secret techniques, Lu Ming took out a divine herb and began to refine it. Lu Ming had stored some energy before, and he felt that it had reached 30%. However, during this time, Lu Ming had used up a lot of energy, so he continued to store it. The divine herb Lu Ming took out was an emperor-grade divine herb. Its medicinal energy was astonishing. After another 2 years, Lu Ming felt that the energy stored in his cells had reached 50%. The potential was astonishing, and it was just waiting for him to excavate it. Of course, this 50% was relative to Lu Ming's current level. When Lu Ming's cultivation level increased in the future, he would need more energy if he wanted to store 50% of his energy. At this time, Lu Ming's heart shook, and a message appeared in the dream god Jade. It was a message from Jiang Lebang. Why would Jiang Lebang send me a message at this time? Lu Ming pondered. Jiang Lebang's message was not very specific. He only said that there was an opportunity and he wanted to invite Lu Ming along. Lu Ming thought for a moment and decided to go take a look. Now, Lu Ming's combat power had increased, and he had stored a large amount of energy that needed to be excavated. If he wanted to excavate it quickly, taking a risk was the best way. Taking a risk could not only excavate his potential, but also obtain opportunities. It was killing two birds with one stone. Lu Ming set off for planet Shangchuan. Planet Shangchuan was not far from the barren planet that Lu Ming was on. Soon, Lu Ming arrived at planet Shangchuan and met Jiang Lebang. "Brother Jiang, what is this opportunity you mentioned?" asked Lu Ming. "It's related to the ruins of the Skyleap Divine Nation," said Jiang Lebang. Skyleap Divine Nation. Lu Ming was puzzled. He had never heard of it. Jiang Lebang explained, the Heavenly Transcendence Divine Nation was a huge divine nation in this star field a few dozen stellar years ago. It was extremely powerful and was not weaker than the races on the Great Desolate 10,000 Races list. However, overnight, the Heavenly Transcendence Divine Nation collapsed and was destroyed, disappearing from the world. A powerful force comparable to the primitive 10,000 Races role disappeared overnight? How could that have happened? Lu Ming was a bit shocked. Which of the races on the primitive 10,000 Races role didn't have inheritances for countless years? They had a deep foundation and were incomparably powerful. How could it be so easy to destroy them? But they were destroyed overnight. That was shocking. I don't know. No one knows what happened, but someone speculated. At this point, Jiang Lebang stopped. Speculated what? Asked Lu Ming. I can't say. Brother Mu, you can figure it out yourself. As he spoke, Jiang Lebang pointed at the sky. Heavenly Palace. Two words appeared in Lu Ming's mind. Now, I found out through a secret channel that the ruins of the Skyleap Divine Nation are about to appear. Someone has found the entrance to the ruins. If it's true, there should be a lot of treasures left inside. This is an opportunity. Jiang Lebang's eyes shone with a fiery light. The treasures left behind by a race comparable to the primitive 10,000 Races role would definitely be shocking. Okay, I'll go with you. Lu Ming nodded and agreed. Okay, we'll set off in half a month. Not only us, but also 3 other forces. Because the entrance was discovered by us, said Jiang Lebang. Lu Ming nodded and found a place to stay. Half a month later, they set off for the entrance of the Skyleap Divine Nation. Chapter 37:17. The ruins of the Heavenly Eclipse Divine Nation were located in a special galaxy. This galaxy was shrouded in dense clouds. This galaxy was called the Cloud Mist Galaxy. Lu Ming, Jiang Lebang, and a group of experts that Jiang Lebang had brought with him appeared outside the Cloud Mist Galaxy. Apart from them, there were also people from 3 other factions. Each side had a large number of people, numbering in the hundreds. So many experts. Lu Ming sensed a little and discovered that among the 4 forces, most of them were quasi-emperors. A large number of quasi-emperors. The rest were mostly 9th-level divine monarchs. After entering the bustling starry sky, the Taishu dynasty couldn't compare to them. The Taishu dynasty was only a pseudo-universal level faction. They couldn't even be considered a true universal level faction. Compared to the bustling starry sky, the difference was too great. Among the powerful races in the starry sky, quasi-emperors were just cannon fodder. Only true divine emperors were considered experts. However, Lu Ming didn't sense the aura of any divine emperors. Of course, perhaps the divine emperors were too strong for Lu Ming to sense. After all, Jiang Lebang didn't say that divine emperors couldn't enter the ruins of the Heavenly Eclipse Divine Nation. So Lu Ming didn't dare to be careless. Let's go in, Jiang Lebang said to the other 3 factions. Soon after, the four factions gathered and entered the cloud mist galaxy. Someone took out a map and followed it. After half a day, they found a huge stone door floating in the air. The stone door looked very old and was filled with the marks of time. However, it hadn't decayed. This is the place. This stone door is the entrance to the ruins of the heavenly eclipse divine nation. A middle-aged man in luxurious clothes said. Let's begin. Jiang Lebang said. Soon after, the four factions sent out some experts. These were all formation experts. They surrounded the stone door and began to inscribe formation runes. One rune after another entered the stone door. Not long after, runes appeared on the stone door and slithered around like little snakes. Buzz! Suddenly, the stone door trembled slightly and emitted a dazzling light. The stone door slowly opened, revealing a pitch-black passage. Let's go. Immediately, one of the factions took the lead and rushed in. Brother Lu, let's go. Jiang Lebang shouted and rushed in with his men. Lu Ming followed closely behind. In the blink of an eye, the people from the four major forces disappeared into the tunnel. Lu Ming felt a slight rotation in the void. The next moment, he realized that he was already high up in the sky. A strong gravitational force came, causing his body to fall. His heart skipped a beat, and his muscles trembled slightly. He stabilized his body and floated in mid-air. Sweeping his gaze around, he discovered that Jiang Lebang and the others were all floating in the air, sizing them up. Lu Ming also looked down. Below them were strange buildings. These buildings were oval-shaped, with sharp tops that pierced the sky. As far as the eye could see, there were such buildings everywhere. However, many buildings had collapsed. Some had even collapsed or been split in half. Sword marks and saber marks could be clearly seen on the vast earth. Clearly, a great battle had taken place here some time ago. The heavenly transcendence divine nation was destroyed in a single night. It seems like there was an intense battle there, but outsiders don't know about it. Someone sighed. However, some people had already rushed down to the buildings below. The others were worried that others would be the first to rush down, so they also rushed down. This area was very vast. The people of the major forces had spread out to search for buildings and opportunities. Lu Ming also rushed to a building on the side. When he landed on the ground, he realized that these buildings were really huge. Each one was over 1,000 meters tall. Lu Ming entered a building and discovered that there were many statues on both sides of the building. There were a total of 18 statues. However, these statues were just ordinary statues. They didn't seem to have any value. Lu Ming didn't stop and went inside. It was very chaotic inside. There were also statues, but they had already collapsed. It was a mess. Clearly, there had been an intense battle. Lu Ming scanned with his spiritual sense, but didn't find anything valuable. There's something down there. At this time, a voice sounded. It was Chocho. Chocho wasn't by the side of the past, but by the side of the present to adventure together. Chocho flew out. A few pairs of claws appeared on its round body and scratched out. The rocks on the ground were pushed aside by Chocho, and then an iron rod was revealed. To be precise, it was half an iron rod. The other half had already disappeared. Chocho jumped up excitedly, opened its mouth, and swallowed half of the iron rod in one gulp. This is a treasure. Lu Ming was curious. Treasure, it's a treasure, Chocho cried out. Lu Ming also revealed a look of joy, hoping that Chocho's cultivation could improve greatly. During this period of time on the dragon race's mother planet, Lu Ming killed a large number of enemies and obtained countless divine weapons. Most of these divine weapons entered Chocho's stomach. Chocho's cultivation also advanced by leaps and bounds, reaching the peak of the 5th level Divine Lord realm. It wasn't far from the 6th level Divine Lord realm. There weren't many things that could be called treasures by Chocho. After Chocho ate it, its cultivation would most likely improve greatly, and it might even evolve a corresponding attack method. After Chocho ate it, it turned back into a bracelet and wore it on Lu Ming's hand. The bracelet that Chocho turned into was very common, and there were plenty of them on the streets. He wasn't afraid that others would recognize him based on this. After searching for a while, he didn't find anything and continued to move on to other buildings. Next, Lu Ming searched several buildings, but didn't find much. He did find a few damaged weapons, but they weren't called treasures by Qiuqiu. They could only be said to be ordinary. Let's go up and take a look. Lu Ming pondered. Because he had previously discovered that some buildings were built on top of a peak in front of him. Perhaps there would be a big discovery at the center of these buildings. Lu Ming left the buildings and flew towards that peak. Clearly, many people had the same idea as him. They didn't find anything in these buildings, so they all flew towards those buildings on the peak. However, everyone stopped at the foot of the mountain. At the foot of the mountain, there was a tall stone pagoda standing there. The stone pagoda looked very shabby, but it emitted a grand and lofty aura. Many people's eyes flickered, wondering if there was a treasure in this stone pagoda. Look, there's blood on the stone pagoda. Suddenly, someone shouted. Everyone looked carefully and their hearts shook. Sure enough, there was blood on the stone pagoda. Moreover, it looked like fresh blood, bright red, and even slowly flowing. It looked like it had just been splashed. Moreover, this fresh blood also emitted a terrifying aura. Could it be that this stone pagoda is suppressing something? Someone guessed. Should we move the stone pagoda and take a look? Someone suggested. But the others looked at each other in dismay. This stone pagoda looked very strange. If they moved it and something strange happened, wouldn't they be asking for trouble? Chapter 37:18. Everyone was a little uncertain. If there were treasures in the tower, wouldn't it be a pity if they didn't move it? But if there was something strange, wouldn't it be dangerous? At this time, Lu Ming noticed something strange. When he stared at the blood on the tower, it seemed to emit a dazzling red light. Then, the red light spread, and the world in Lu Ming's eyes became blood red. Then, the world suddenly changed. The location was still the same, but the people had changed. Jiang Bang and the others had disappeared, and countless others had appeared. Kill. Battle cries shook the heavens. Many experts flew out from various buildings and soared into the air, charging towards the sky. Violent rumbles came from the sky. Disloyal people, all of you should die. A cold voice came from the sky. Lu Ming looked toward the sky and saw the clouds churning in the sky. He could vaguely see a few huge figures. They weren't humans, and they were covered by the clouds. He couldn't see their specific appearances. He could vaguely see an existence that looked like a crocodile, and its body was as big as a small mountain. There was also a giant octopus with 8 tentacles that waved around, bringing with them bolts of lightning. As soon as the voice finished speaking, attacks fell from the sky. The lightning bolts were as thick as mountains, and there were also axes chopping down. Immediately, the world was filled with miserable screams. Lightning filled the sky, and axes filled the sky. Those figures that had soared into the sky were directly turned to ashes by the terrifying attacks. Large numbers of experts were killed. The scene was incomparably tragic. Lightning sea destroys the world. A cold voice came from the sky. Boundless thunder and lightning formed a sea of thunderstorms that pressed down on the ground. Amidst the thunderstorm, there was also a terrifying axe radiance. The sea of lightning enveloped all the buildings, and countless figures exploded and turned to ashes. Disloyal people? If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. The heavenly palace is tyrannical. Sooner or later, it will be destroyed. A sorrowful and indignant voice came from one of the buildings on the peak. An old man appeared. This old man looked very old. His hair was almost falling out, and his face was full of wrinkles. Grief and indignation appeared on his face. He roared and soared into the sky, his body emitting a resplendent golden light. Those who defy the heavenly palace will be killed without mercy. A cold voice came from the clouds. Then, Lu Ming saw the figure that looked like a giant crocodile brandishing a battle axe and slashing down violently. A shocking axe light slashed towards the old man. Boom! The old man and the axe collided, causing a dazzling golden light to erupt. Then, the golden light collapsed, and the old man's body fell to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Today, The Tianyu divine country shall be destroyed. A cold and aloof voice spread throughout the world. Even if I die, I will drag you all down with me. The old man let out a long howl. His entire body was bathed in blood as he once again soared into the sky. However, this time, a stone pagoda appeared in his hand. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. This stone pagoda was exactly the same as the stone pagoda that they had seen previously. Boom! The old man rushed into the clouds with the stone tower in his hand. At this moment, the scene around him changed again. Everything disappeared, and he returned to his previous state. Jiang Lebang and the others were still around him. Brother Jiang, did you see something strange just now? Asked Lu Ming. No. Jiang Lebang shook his head and curiously asked, could it be that Brother Lu noticed something strange? Lu Ming looked at the others and didn't see anything strange. It was as if he was the only one who had seen that scene. When I was staring at his blood, I suddenly noticed that the environment had changed. Immediately, Lu Ming recounted the situation that he had seen earlier. There was nothing to hide, so Lu Ming's voice was very loud. Many people heard it. Many people were shocked when they heard it. Could it be that what you saw was a projection of the battle back then? Is this really related to the Heavenly Palace? Could it be that it was the Heaven Sentinel? Many people's expressions were grave. Heaven Sentinel? Lu Ming was curious. He knew that the Heavenly Palace had the Heaven Sentinel sword that could suppress the heavens. It was a treasure of the Heavenly Palace and possessed terrifying power. Back then, the Yale Lord of Heaven had used the Heaven Sentinel sword to break through the defense of the 10,000 dragon seals. But this was the first time Lu Ming had heard of the Heaven Sentinel. However, Jiang Lebang and the others seemed to be afraid and didn't say anything. The so-called Heaven Sentinel is just the Heavenly Palace's executioners. Bone Devil's voice sounded in his knowledge sea. On the surface, the Heavenly Palace has heavenly soldiers in charge of suppressing the various races of the universe and maintaining the prestige of the Heavenly Palace. But in the dark, they have cultivated a group of Heaven Sentinels. The so-called Heaven Sentinel is just a group of executioners who are secretly responsible for getting rid of those forces or individuals who have disloyalty to the Heavenly Palace. Since ancient times, who knows how many forces or individuals have been secretly killed by the Heaven Sentinel. Clearly, this Skypass divine nation was also the same and was destroyed by the Heaven Sentinel. Bone Devil sneered. So that's how it is. Lu Ming finally understood what he had seen. That huge crocodile and that octopus-like creature were the Heaven Sentinels. And for some unknown reason, the Heavenly Palace thought that the Skypass divine nation was disloyal and sent out Heaven Sentinels to destroy it overnight, causing it to disappear from the universe. It seems that the bottom of this stone tower is really extraordinary. Could there be a Heaven Sentinel suppressed under it? The blood on the stone tower, could it be the Heaven Sentinel's blood? Let's not touch this stone tower. Everyone felt a lingering fear and finally decided not to touch this stone tower. Everyone circled around the stone tower and flew towards the peak. Lu Ming did the same. His speed was very fast and he arrived at the peak in the blink of an eye and entered a huge palace. Lu Ming saw from the previous scene that this palace was the palace where the old man lived. There were only a few broken statues in the palace. Lu Ming directly walked past them and entered the palace. In the depths of the palace, there was a room with some shelves. On the shelves, there were some jade talismans. Lu Ming picked up a jade talisman and saw that it was a secret technique. These jade talismans, could they all be secret techniques? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. There were at least 100 jade talismans here. Lu Ming waved his hand and collected them all. Other than the jade talismans, Lu Ming also found a bracelet. The bracelet was made of stone beads, and there were a total of 12 of them. It felt warm to the touch, like jade, but it was incomparably heavy. Lu Ming grabbed it and felt like he was grabbing 12 mountains. Treasure. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. This was clearly extraordinary. Swish. At this time, a dozen figures charged in. They were experts from another of the 4 superpowers called the Qianli sect. The Qianli sect's experts immediately revealed greedy expressions when they saw the bracelet in Lu Ming's hand. Brat, hand over the bracelet in your hand. Also, Hand over everything you obtained just now. A middle-aged man with a sword on his back stared at Lu Ming with a fiery gaze. Chapter 37:19. The burly middle-aged man with a combat sword on his back and a dozen other people were glaring at Lu Ming. Not only did they want Lu Ming's bracelet, but they also wanted Lu Ming's interspatial ring. There were quite a few shelves here, so they didn't believe there was only one bracelet. The four factions all came here first. First come, first served. I came here first, so the things here are naturally mine, Lu Ming said. First come, first served, haha, don't you know the principle of first come first? The middle-aged man with a sword on his back sneered. Of course I know that. Since that's the case, this treasure should belong to me. Lu Ming smiled and put the bracelet into his interspatial ring. Brat, you're courting death. The eyes of the middle-aged man with a sword on his back flashed with cold killing intent. In his view, Lu Ming was playing with him. Lu Ming meant that Lu Ming had become stronger. He was a quasi-emperor, while Lu Ming was a mere fourth-level divine lord. He was stronger than him. If this wasn't playing with him, then what was? Brat, I gave you a chance, but you didn't want it. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. The middle-aged burly man with a combat sword on his back shouted coldly. He used his fingers as a sword and pierced toward Lu Ming. A sharp ray of sword chi stabbed at Lu Ming. A casual attack from a quasi-emperor sword cultivator was extremely powerful. The other people from the Qianli sect relaxed. In their view, Lu Ming was dead for sure. If a quasi-emperor wanted to kill a fourth-level divine monarch, there would only be one outcome for this person, and that was death. There would not be a second outcome. In an instant, the sword chi arrived in front of Lu Ming. The middle-aged burly man with a combat sword on his back revealed a sinister smile. It was as if he could see Lu Ming revealing a regretful expression and then being killed. Unfortunately, he didn't see any regret or panic on Lu Ming's face. Lu Ming's expression hadn't changed at all. Tranquil and indifferent. Just as the sword chi was about to hit Lu Ming's forehead, Lu Ming stretched out two fingers and pinched the sword chi. A poof. The sword chi was like a useless wisp of air, directly dispersing without causing any harm to Lu Ming. The other members of the Qianli sect opened their mouths in shock. Obviously, this scene was completely different from what they had imagined. This brat can block senior apprentice brother Liu's attack. How is that possible? I guess he was just lucky. Also, senior brother Liu didn't use much strength in that casual attack. Definitely. These people nodded repeatedly, as if they had found a reason to convince themselves. For them to believe that a fourth-level divine lord could block a quasi-emperor's attack, it was impossible. They didn't want to believe it. Otherwise, wouldn't it mean that they were useless? However, the middle-aged man with the battle sword on his back was not so relaxed. His face turned serious. Only he knew that he had used 30% of his strength just now. 30% of a quasi-emperor's strength. Let alone a fourth-level divine lord, even an eighth-level divine lord would be dead. Even a ninth-level divine lord had to be treated with caution. But Lu Ming had casually blocked it. This was not normal. Brat, you have some strength, but your fate today is already decided. The middle-aged man with a sword on his back said coldly as he drew his sword from his back. Lu Ming blocking his attack didn't make him retreat. Instead, it stimulated his killing intent. If he retreated today, how could he raise his head in front of his junior apprentice brothers? Buzz. The battle sword vibrated, and a terrifying aura erupted. Kill. The middle-aged, burly man shouted. Holding the sword with both hands, he dashed out and slashed toward Lu Ming. Sword chi whistled, enveloping Lu Ming's body. If you don't seek death, you won't die. Lu Ming shook his head. He had already shown mercy, wanting the other party to retreat. But since the other party wanted to die, he could only fulfill his wish. Boom. Lu Ming directly punched out. The void shook violently, and the space exploded directly. The horrifying fist force was like a tsunami, and it crushed toward the middle-aged man. Bang! The other party's sword energy directly scattered. The fist landed on the middle-aged man's sword, causing it to shatter like glass. The fist didn't stop and continued to land on the middle-aged man's body. No. The middle-aged burly man let out a horrified and regretful scream. Then, his body turned into ashes under the force of Lu Ming's fist. The remaining people of the Qianli sect were completely stunned. A fourth-level divine lord killed a quasi-emperor with a single punch. What was going on? Were they seeing things, or were they dreaming? If it was real, how was it possible? A divine lord. This is a divine lord. He's deliberately pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger to trick us. They couldn't help but have a thought in their minds. Run, run. One of them roared and frantically retreated. The remaining people also reacted and wanted to flee. However, Lu Ming's gaze turned cold. Since he had already attacked, Lu Ming wouldn't let these people off. According to his experience, he had already killed the middle-aged man and offended the Qianli sect. If he let these people leave, the Qianli sect wouldn't let this matter rest. Instead, they would take revenge by sending even stronger experts. Lu Ming had experienced this kind of thing too many times. In order to reduce one potential enemy, these people had to be eliminated. These people weren't good people. If Lu Ming wasn't strong enough, they wouldn't hesitate to kill him. Kill. Lu Ming's cold voice sounded and he launched an attack. With Lu Ming's current strength, these people wouldn't even be able to escape. In less than a minute, the Qianli sect's experts had all died. Lu Ming silently left. Boom. Just at this moment, a terrifying explosion rang out. Heaven and earth trembled. Roar. Then a tyrannical roar rang out. It was like a demon that had been suppressed for countless years was about to come out. What's going on? Lu Ming was startled. He soared into the sky and looked into the distance. The others did the same. They all flew into the sky and looked in the direction of the roar. It's that stone tower. Damn it, someone touched that stone tower. Someone roared. As expected, there were many more people at the stone tower. There were at least 1,000 of them. The Sky Locust race, the Frost Moon Vine race. Lu Ming's gaze moved. Among these people, he immediately saw the figures of the Sky Locust race and the Frost Moon Vine race. The Locust Fang he had met at the trade fair was always there. Chapter 37:20. The stone pagoda was moved away by a burly man from the Heavenly Locust tribe. Under the original stone tower, a dazzling light was emitted. ZZ bolts of lightning shot out from the bottom of the stone tower. Roar. Another terrifying roar came out, shaking the heaven and earth violently. Not good. There's an expert suppressed under the stone tower. Quickly release him. Hurry. At this moment, people from the Heavenly Locust tribe, the Frost Moonvine tribe and a few other forces shouted in shock. The burly man from the Heavenly Locust tribe wanted to put the stone pagoda back, but it was too late. Thunderous roars filled the sky. From the place where the stone pagoda had been suppressing, a few tentacles stretched out. They looked like tentacles of an octopus. Each tentacle was extremely huge, reaching over 100 meters long and covered in lightning. The tentacles swept across, and huge thunderbolts burst out. Many people were enveloped by the lightning. They didn't even have time to scream before their bodies were reduced to ashes. In the blink of an eye, dozens of people were killed. Regardless of whether it was 8th level Divine Lord, 9th level Divine Lord, or Divine Sovereign, it was all the same. Instant kill. Retreat, quickly retreat. Huang Fang and Yu Chang retreated hastily under the protection of numerous experts. The burly man from the Heavenly Acrepoid race who had moved the stone pagoda hurriedly threw it down and retreated. Disloyal people, kill. A cold and tyrannical roar was heard. Then, a gigantic octopus appeared. The octopus floated in the air and waved its 8 tentacles. Lightning filled the sky as it charged toward the crowd. Some of the lightning bolts even charged towards Lu Ming and the others. Damn it! Why are the Heavenly Locust race and the Frozen Moon Vine race here? On Lu Ming's side, some people roared and fled in all directions. If we can find the entrance to Tianyu God Country, others can naturally find it as well. Let's go. Everyone fled in all directions to avoid the lightning attacks. However, one of them was struck by lightning and turned into ashes. Flesh, I need flesh. The octopus seemed to have woken up from a dream. It finally understood the situation. Greed and desire shone in its eyes as it charged toward the heavenly locust tribe and the icy moonvine tribe. His speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he caught up with them. Bastard, you're courting death. An angry roar came from the heavenly Acrepoid tribe. Then, an elder from the heavenly Acrepoid tribe shot up into the sky and runes appeared all over his body. As the runes scattered, a terrifying aura burst out from them. God King, this is definitely the aura of a God King. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. A divine emperor from the heavenly Acrepoid race had come in, but he had concealed his chi with a talisman. These divine emperors seemed to be afraid of something, which was why they had sealed their cultivation with a sealing technique. If the heavenly Acrepoid race was like this, the other forces would probably do the same. Swish, the god emperor of the heavenly Acrepoid race transformed into his true form, a giant locust, and rushed toward the octopus. The sharp claws of the heavenly Acrepoid tribe were like divine blades as they slashed at the octopus, colliding with the thunderbolts of the octopus. There was a huge explosion in the area that destroyed the heavens and the earth. After a few moves, the heavenly Acrepoid race expert retreated. However, he was blocked by the heavenly Acrepoid race expert. Everyone, if we don't act now, when are we going to? This octopus has been suppressed for many years, it doesn't have much strength left. Let's kill it together, otherwise, we'll all be killed. The heavenly Acrepoid race's divine emperor roared. Kill. The octopus roared, its 8 tentacles were incomparably huge, extending and sweeping in all directions. The suckers on the octopus's tentacles released a terrifying suction force. Many people screamed in fear as they were sucked into the suckers. Then, they disappeared into the suckers, not even their bones were left behind. Attack. Let's kill this octopus together. A few angry roars sounded. A figure rushed out from the direction of the icy moon vine race. This person's body was covered with many talismans, which were also sealing talismans, sealing his own chi. Boom. The sealing talismans dispersed and a divine emperor's chi burst out. At the same time, several other forces, such as the Qian Li sect and Jiang Lebang's forces, also had divine emperors break out of their seals, releasing their chi. A total of 7 divine emperors rushed toward the octopus. Boom. Boom. Dazzling divine light burst out, and powerful waves of chi swept across half the sky, creating a terrifying explosion. A battle between divine emperors was incomparably terrifying. Others didn't dare to get close, so they all retreated far away. Lu Ming was extremely fast. In a few flashes, he had distanced himself from the octopus. These are divine emperors. I'm not their match. Lu Ming's expression was grave. Although he could easily kill quasi-emperors, the difference between quasi-emperors and divine emperors was too great. No matter how strong he was, he still wasn't a match for divine emperors, even if they were the lowest level of divine emperors. Only divine emperors could participate in this battle. Those below divine emperors had all retreated far away. Lu Ming also quickly flew away, leaving this place. In any case, he had pretty much explored this place. Lu Ming had obtained some secret techniques, as well as a bracelet whose effects he didn't know. It had been worth it. A moment later, Lu Ming was already far away from that place. Lu Ming could no longer feel the fluctuations of the battle there. Lu Ming continued flying forward. Soon, he arrived at a primitive forest. The forest was extremely dense. Ancient trees stretched as far as the sky. Lu Ming stood in the air, watching from a distance. He saw the shadow of a huge building in the forest. If there was a building, then there might be an opportunity. Lu Ming carefully flew into the forest. He didn't see anything strange along the way. There were only flourishing plants in this forest. There were no animals. Lu Ming quickly arrived at the center of the forest. There really were a large number of buildings here, but they had all collapsed. Many of them were completely deformed. They had clearly experienced an intense battle and exploded. That's Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. He saw an incomparably huge skeleton. Its flesh had already rotted, leaving behind only a skeleton. Its bones were sparkling and translucent, more exquisite than the most exquisite jade. He couldn't see what kind of race it was. It looked like a tiger, but it also looked like a lion. But there was a single horn on its head that pointed straight to the sky. It was incomparably sharp, even sharper than a divine sword. But what attracted Lu Ming's attention was each of its joints. In every joint of this skeleton, there were round pearls as white as jade. Bone bead. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. This was a special race. Under special conditions, the corpse would condense bone beads after it died. It gathered a large amount of the life essence of this creature when it was alive. It was a top-grade treasure in the universe. He didn't expect that this creature would actually form bone beads. Even from a distance, Lu Ming could feel the vast life energy in the bone beads. Although Lu Ming had a lot of divine herbs on him, which would be enough for a short period of time, it was naturally better to have more of such treasures. As Lu Ming's cultivation improved, his energy consumption would become more and more astonishing. The divine herbs on hand were simply not enough. Chapter 37:21. Lu Ming didn't immediately collect the bone bead. Instead, he sent out his spiritual sense to investigate the surrounding area. Spiritual sense came from the soul. Now that Lu Ming's soul was spread to every cell in his body, his spiritual sense was also coming from every cell in his body. It was very calm. There was nothing strange, and there were no living creatures. Lu Ming didn't sense any danger. Lu Ming was relieved. With a flash of his body, he headed toward the skeleton. When Lu Ming approached the skeleton, he suddenly felt a sense of danger. Every cell in his body trembled slightly. There's danger. Retreat. Lu Ming's figure retreated rapidly. At this moment, the shadow cast by the skeleton suddenly moved. A shadow stretched out like a javelin, stabbing toward Lu Ming at a shocking speed. Block. Lu Ming sent out a punch. But that shadow was not only fast, but it was also unpredictable. When it approached Lu Ming's fist, it twisted and went around Lu Ming's fist, stabbing toward Lu Ming's chest. Not good. Lu Ming cried out inwardly. In an instant, his body released a dazzling light. This was a defensive secret art he had fused into his cells. Over 50 kinds of defensive secret arts erupted at once. However, these defensive secret arts were unable to block the shadow's attack. They were directly pierced through. With a phut sound, a bloody hole appeared in Lu Ming's chest. Lu Ming's body flew backward, crashing into and breaking a few trees with a diameter of more than 10 meters. What a powerful attack! It even included a spiritual attack. Lu Ming felt a burning pain in his chest. His expression was grave. His secret art didn't have much of an effect on that shadow's attack. The reason was because it contained a powerful spiritual attack. It had directly pierced through his secret art's defenses. His chest had been completely pierced through. There was a bloody hole in his chest, and so was his heart. However, although Lu Ming's body was similar to an ordinary person's, he no longer had any vital points. There was no difference between the major organs, the brain, and the ordinary muscles of the hands and feet. The potential in his cells erupted, and his wounds healed rapidly. As for the soul attack, his soul had already been dispersed to every cell in his body. The places that had been attacked just now had indeed suffered heavy damage. However, his soul had been split into 60 trillion parts, so these attacks were harmless. The soul power in the other cells was constantly replenished to the places that were attacked, and the souls in the places that were attacked were rapidly recovering. In an instant, Lu Ming's wound healed. What kind of attack or creature is this? Lu Ming's gaze was fixed on the shadow under the white bones. Previously, Lu Ming thought that this was the shadow cast by white bone, but now it seemed that it was not that simple. Or rather, there was some strange creature hiding under the shadow of the white bones. Lu Ming looked at it carefully and was still unwilling to leave. The life energy of that kind of bone pearl was too abundant. Its value was definitely above emperor-grade divine medicine. It was extremely rare and hard to come by. I need to get it as quickly as possible. Lu Ming revealed a resolute look. Then, his body shook and he dashed out, pouncing on by Jiyu. The instant he charged, all the speed secret arts he had fused with his cells erupted. This caused Lu Ming's speed to explode. He was like a bolt of lightning as he charged at White Bone. However, just as Lu Ming approached White Bone, the shadow below began to rapidly wriggle. Then 5 or 6 black shadows shot at Lu Ming. Each one of them was like a javelin, but their speed was shocking. Dodge Lu Ming's heart shook, and he quickly changed his position to dodge the javelin attacks. However, the shadow suddenly began to rapidly expand. It spread along the ground and rapidly grew, enveloping everything within 100 miles. Then countless javelins appeared from all directions and stabbed at Lu Ming. Not good. Lu Ming's expression changed. He knew that he had underestimated his opponent. He had underestimated this shadow. This shadow's power was beyond his imagination. From all directions, there were at least hundreds of shadow javelins stabbing towards him, densely covering every direction. Even if Lu Ming wanted to dodge, he couldn't. He could only break. Break. Lu Ming roared. His body began to emit a resplendent light, making him look like a sun. His fists constantly punched out, and one fist energy after another exploded in a certain direction. At the same time, he also used many offensive secret arts. Divine Dragon Aspect Art, 9 dragons roar the ice chain, 9 chains like long snakes dancing in the air. 9 Chi Sword Art unhindered. All kinds of attacks attacked those shadow javelins together. This space exploded, releasing intense rumbling sounds. Under this incomparably powerful power, the shadow javelin's spiritual attacks were somewhat affected. Some of them were distorted, and some of them were slowed down. But it was still difficult to block them all. These shadow attacks were still stubbornly advancing. Fut! Blood splattered everywhere. More than 10 wounds appeared on Lu Ming's body instantly. It was hideous and terrifying. Lu Ming circulated all his strength to recover. Then he took a step and soared into the sky. But it was already too late. At this moment, that shadow was like a sphere, completely enveloping everything within 100 miles. Whoosh! Shadow javelins appeared above his head, stabbing at Lu Ming. Lu Ming resisted with all his strength, but he was still hit, and a few more wounds appeared on his body. I can't continue like this. I have to charge out. Otherwise, even if I have a taboo body, I'll be exhausted to death by this monster. Lu Ming's thoughts rapidly turned. Although his recovery speed was extremely fast, he could still recover no matter how heavy his injuries were. But he needed time, and he needed energy. Although he had stored up a large amount of energy before, and he felt that he had around 50% of it left, his energy consumption was extremely shocking. At this moment, he felt that his energy was rapidly being consumed. So he couldn't be trapped here. He had to charge out. Charge! Lu Ming clenched his teeth. Staring in one direction, he quickly charged out. At the same time, his fists were constantly punching out. All kinds of secret arts were constantly unleashed. But his body didn't stop. The result of this was that he was constantly being hit. More and more wounds appeared on his body. His entire body was dyed red with blood. But he didn't care. He continued charging. He wasn't an ordinary person. If an ordinary person suffered such a heavy injury, their combat power would be greatly reduced, and they would be in danger. But he wouldn't. As long as he could charge out, no matter how heavy his injuries were, they could be healed. Finally, Lu Ming reached the edge of the shadow barrier. In front of him, he was blocked by a black shadow barrier. Boom! Lu Ming continuously punched out. Several of his fists landed on the shadow barrier, but it didn't budge. Chapter 37:22. His berserk attack landed on the shadow light curtain. The shadow light curtain didn't budge. It had no effect. Lu Ming paled. His attack was actually unable to break through the shadow light curtain. At this time, the shadow light curtain counterattacked. Javelins appeared on the light curtain and shot towards Lu Ming. Many wounds immediately appeared on Lu Ming's body, penetrating from front to back. Lu Ming coughed up blood, but his gaze was still resolute. He hadn't lost hope. Taboo energy, Lu Ming shouted. His cells began to tremble. Strands of taboo energy began to spread. This time, the taboo energy didn't hide within his body. Instead, it appeared. A layer of transparent energy covered Lu Ming's fist. Boom! Lu Ming once more punched the shadow light curtain. A shocking scene appeared. Lu Ming's fist directly pierced through the shadow light curtain. A miserable scream came from the shadow light curtain, and then it began to rapidly squirm. Boom! Lu Ming threw out a few more punches and screams could be heard again. The shadow screen wriggled even more violently before shrinking rapidly. Naturally, the encirclement around Lu Ming was broken. I really didn't expect the taboo energy to be able to restrain this shadow. I have to go. Lu Ming didn't dare to stop in the slightest. He crazily charged forward. In the blink of an eye, he was 100 miles away. But when he turned back, his pupils shrank. That shadow shrunk and actually turned into a pitch-black creature. This life form looked like a tiger, but it wasn't. It had a single horn on its head, and it was extremely similar to the skeleton's body. Could it be that this shadow evolved from the skeleton's body after it died? A thought flashed across Lu Ming's mind and he continued to dash forward. That one-horned shadow beast only icily looked at Lu Ming. It didn't chase after him. After a while, its body began to fade, and it merged back into the skeleton's shadow. Lu Ming continued to run. As he ran, his injuries healed at an extremely fast rate. In just a few minutes, the wounds on his body had disappeared. The internal wounds were also recovering quickly. My strength has increased again. I'm not far from 5th level Divine Lord. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He discovered that along with the recovery of his injuries, his cultivation was also rising rapidly. He was already close to peak 4th level Divine Lord. This was because he had gone through an intense battle. After being injured, his cells had repaired themselves and released the potential within. The more I get beaten up, the stronger I become. Then wouldn't I become a masochist in the future? Lu Ming was speechless. The cultivation method of this taboo power was really strange. Of course, if he just stood there and let the other party attack him, it wouldn't be of much use. Only in a truly intense battle, a battle of life and death, could one's potential be truly stimulated. When Lu Ming rushed out of the forest, his injuries were basically healed. It's that brat. Stop him. At this moment, a shout rang out. In front, a group of people were chasing after Lu Ming. The one leading them was actually Huang Fang. These people were from the heavenly Acrepoid race. There were at least 20 experts rushing towards Lu Ming. They were all quasi-emperors. How unlucky. Lu Ming was speechless. He had just rushed out of the forest when he encountered the heavenly Acrepoid race. Huang Fang's face was gloomy as he stared at Lu Ming with murderous intent. Huang Fang, I spared your life back then. If you don't know when to stop, you'll have to bear the consequences. Lu Ming said coldly. You'll have to bear the consequences. How dare you threaten me? Who do you think you are? You're just a bug. Crush him. Huang Fang roared, his face contorted. Lu Ming actually dared to mention that matter in front of him. This was simply poking at his sore spot, making him go crazy. Kill. The 20 quasi-emperors transformed into their locusts. Their claws were like blades as they attacked Lu Ming. You're courting death. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. His killing intent was like a blade. He had gone around Huang Fang previously to avoid offending the heavenly Acrepoid race and being harassed by them. Originally, he had thought that with the vastness of the primitive universe, he would not cross paths with Huang Fang again. He also thought that the heavenly Acrepoid race would not go after him just because he had beaten up Huang Fang. But he did not expect to meet Huang Fang in the ruins of the heavenly eclipse divine kingdom. Moreover, Huang Fang looked like he wanted to kill him. Lu Ming decided not to hold back anymore. Swish, swish, swish. Lu Ming's palm was like a blade. He activated the offensive secret technique in his palm, causing Lu Ming's palm to become incomparably sharp. With a slash of his palm, the void split open. 2 quasi-emperors of the heavenly Acrepoid race were killed before they could even scream. Now, Lu Ming had integrated even more secret techniques into his body. His cultivation had also reached the peak of the fourth-layer Divine Lord realm. His battle strength had increased. Killing quasi-emperors was like killing chickens for him. After killing the 2 quasi-emperors of the heavenly Acrepoid race, Lu Ming turned around and swept his palm. A blinding blade light shot out from his palm. 3 quasi-emperors of the heavenly Acrepoid race were cut in half at the waist. Destructive energy exploded from their bodies, destroying their souls. 5 quasi-emperors were killed in the first exchange. They could not even withstand a single blow. The other quasi-emperors felt a chill run down their spines. Their faces were pale and they did not dare to attack. They quickly retreated. However, since Lu Ming had already killed the experts of the heavenly Acrepoid race, he would not hold back. It was best to kill all of them. Kill! Lu Ming roared and chased after the quasi-emperors of the heavenly Acrepoid race. Bastard, how dare you! With a furious roar, a terrifying aura pressed down on Lu Ming. Boom! Lu Ming felt as if he had been hit by a planet. His body shook violently and he could not help but retreat. Divine Emperors! Lu Ming's expression was extremely grave. An elder stepped out from beside Huang Fengli. A terrifying aura spread out from his body. It was as deep as the sea, unfathomable. Kill! Kill this bastard! Huang Fengli shouted. Boom! The elder's aura became even more terrifying. He took a step forward and charged at Lu Ming at an astonishing speed. I miscalculated. Lu Ming frowned. Previously, the heavenly Acrepoid race's divine emperor had fought against the octopus. Lu Ming had seen it before. It was not this person. Therefore, Lu Ming had been careless and did not retreat immediately. Clearly, there was more than one divine emperor from the heavenly Acrepoid race. Retreat! Without hesitation, Lu Ming retreated and dashed into the forest. You want to escape from my hands? Young man, you must be dreaming. The elder sneered and stepped forward. He stretched out a withered hand and grabbed downwards. Rumble. Heaven and earth shook violently. 9 saber lights appeared in the sky and slashed down on Lu Ming. Open! Lu Ming bellowed and unleashed all his power. The battle word incantation increased his combat power by 5 times to the maximum. Chapter 37-23. Lu Ming exerted all his strength. He activated the battle incantation, increasing his combat power by 5 times. He made dozens of moves consecutively. Dang dang dang! Lu Ming's attack hit the saber gleam in front of him. It was as if he had hit a metal saber and there was a loud explosion. Crack! Then, cracks appeared on the saber gleam. The cracks were densely packed. With Lu Ming's final blow, the saber gleam crumbled into pieces. Lu Ming's figure shot forward. This brat! The Divine Emperor's pupils shrank, revealing a look of disbelief. He never thought that a mere 4th-level Divine Lord could actually break one of his blade lights. This made killing intent flash explosively in his eyes. He was a dignified Divine Emperor, but his saberlight had been broken by a 4th-level Divine Lord. What face did he have left? Die! The Elder of the Divine Emperor realm shouted coldly. He was getting serious. He pressed his palms and the remaining 8 saber gleams shone brightly. Their power increased tremendously as they slashed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming's speed was extremely fast. In an instant, he had already covered a distance of thousands of miles. However, the Elder of the Divine Emperor realm was even faster. His saber radiance covered tens of thousands of miles and shrouded Lu Ming in it. There was no way to escape. Break! Lu Ming roared, attacking with all his strength. He wanted to break the saberlight that was slashing down on him. Boom! Intense rumbling sounds erupted, and powerful energy overflowed in all directions. The forest was torn apart, and ancient trees continuously exploded. In the end, Lu Ming managed to block the saberlight. But this time, the saberlight was even stronger than before. Although Lu Ming managed to block it, he was injured. Bloody scars appeared on his body. They were all caused by the saberlight's energy. Blood flowed freely. The bones in his hand were cracked, and his bones were clearly visible. However, Lu Ming had only blocked one saberlight. There were still 7 more above him. Divine Emperors are truly powerful. Lu Ming's expression was grave. He definitely couldn't face them head-on. He was still far from being able to do so. Lu Ming activated all of his agility and speed secret techniques, raising his speed to the extreme. Swish, swish. His figure flashed rapidly. It was as if there were figures all over the mountain. In the end, a few saberlights missed their target and slashed into the ground. A few 100,000 miles long cracks appeared on the ground and went deep into the ground. However, there were still a few saberlights that were not blocked. No matter how Lu Ming dodged, it seemed to lock onto him. In the end, Lu Ming was hit. His body flew out like a cannonball, breaking a large number of trees. Pain, burning pain. Lu Ming's body was almost split in half. It could be said that he had been split into 2 halves, no, 3 halves. This was because his body had been completely split apart after being hit by the 2-blade auras. Only a small amount of muscle was left to hold his body together. All of the cells in his body were constantly surging with energy. Lu Ming's body quickly recovered. Those muscles were wriggling crazily like small snakes, connecting his body back together. In just a few breaths, Lu Ming's body had been reconnected. He ran madly towards the depths of the forest. He was no match for a divine emperor. It would be difficult for him to even escape. If he wanted to escape, he would need external help. Lu Ming thought of that skeleton, that shadow of a creature. What kind of monster is this? The people of the heavenly Acrepoid race saw this scene and their hearts beat violently. Lu Ming had been hit by a divine emperor consecutively. His body had been split apart. If it had been someone else, they would have been dead. However, Lu Ming was actually fine. His recovery ability was simply terrifying. It was ridiculously strong. In just a few breaths, he had recovered a lot from his serious injuries. Even the divine Emperor Realm Old Man's heart beat violently. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Chase! The elder of the divine Emperor Realm shouted coldly. He stepped out and chased after Lu Ming madly. Let's chase him together, don't let him escape. Huang Fang roared and led the experts of the heavenly Acrepoid race to chase after Lu Ming. Lu Ming burst out with his maximum speed, rushing towards the skeleton with all his strength. While rushing, he also had to dodge the divine Emperor Realm Old Man's attacks. On the way, Lu Ming was hit several times and was heavily injured. Fortunately, Lu Ming had a taboo body, so he managed to survive. I'm here. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He finally saw the skeleton. He did not hesitate to rush towards the skeleton. That's a bone pearl. The divine Emperor Realm Old Man's eyes lit up. He did not hesitate to rush towards the skeleton. At the same time, he waved his hand and released a few terrifying blade lights towards Lu Ming. At this moment, the shadow under the skeleton wriggled violently and a dozen shadow javelins shot out. Most of them were aimed at the divine Emperor Realm Old Man. Only a few of them were aimed at Lu Ming. This was because the elder at the divine Emperor Realm was much more threatening than Lu Ming. Boom boom boom, the shadow javelins hit the blade lights and broke through them. They continued towards the divine Emperor Realm Old Man. The divine Emperor Realm Old Man's expression changed. He waved his hand madly and a terrifying attack broke out, blocking the shadow javelins. On the other hand, Lu Ming covered his fist with taboo strength and blocked the shadow javelins. Roar! The shadow under the skeleton roared furiously. Then, the shadow wriggled violently and covered a radius of 100 li. Whoosh 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 whoosh, there were at least a few hundred shadow javelins in all directions, stabbing towards Lu Ming and the divine Emperor Realm Old Man. Of course, most of them were aimed at the divine Emperor Realm Old Man. The divine Emperor Realm Old Man roared furiously and tried his best to resist. The shadow javelins contained a soul attack. Even he had to be careful. As for Lu Ming, he charged forward with all his might. He opened up a path with the taboo force and rushed to the front of the shadow light curtain. He broke the shadow light curtain with one punch. With a flash, he dashed out of the light curtain and ran away. Damn it! The Divine Emperor Realm Old Man roared furiously and tried his best to resist the shadow javelins. He rushed towards the direction where Lu Ming had escaped. However, when he reached the place where Lu Ming had been, the shadow light curtain had already healed. Boom! The Divine Emperor Realm Old Man slashed the shadow light curtain with his blade. The shadow light curtain shook violently, but it did not break immediately. Break! Break! The Divine Emperor Realm Old Man roared. His divine strength soared to the sky and a vast blade light pierced through the sky. In the end, under the Divine Emperor Realm Old Man's torrential attacks, the shadow light curtain shrunk and turned into a black creature with a horn on its head. At first glance, one could tell that this creature was not real. Its body was slightly distorted. The Divine Emperor Realm Old Man looked around but did not see Lu Ming's figure. Damn it! The Divine Emperor Realm Old Man roared furiously, his face pale. Although he had managed to break through the shadow barrier, he had also suffered some injuries. His soul had been injured. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.